Today, we're going to explore 20 famous stars who appeared on The Andy Griffith Show before they made it big. Some had just a brief cameo, while others played more memorable roles. But I bet the last name on this list will leave you absolutely stunned. We're not talking about Andy Griffith, Don Knotts, or Ron Howard. Forget those familiar faces for now. This list is all about the stars who passed through the show before skyrocketing to fame. Watch the entire video and let me know how many names you guessed right. Let's get started. At number 20, we have Gavin MacLeod. Widely recognized for his role as the friendly Captain Steubing on the Love Boat, MacLeod appeared twice on The Andy Griffith Show. The first time, he played a cunning conman who posed as a television producer to pull off a scam in Mayberry, convincing the townspeople that they were about to become TV stars. But here's the ironic twist. Just one season later, when the show switched to color, the Taylors traveled to Hollywood to watch a movie based on their own lives. And guess who was cast as Sheriff Andy Taylor on the big screen? None other than Gavin MacLeod. A perfect full-circle moment, don't you think? Next at number 19 is George Kennedy. Before he made his mark as the unforgettable dragline in Cool Hand Luke, a role that earned him an Oscar, Kennedy had a brief stop in Mayberry in the season 3 finale, The Big House. In this episode, he played a state police detective who was hilariously mistaken for a bank robber by Barney, leading to a chaotic situation inside the town jail. Funny enough, Kennedy's early role as a cop on The Andy Griffith Show foreshadowed his later career, where he became synonymous with police and aviation films like Airport and The Naked Gun. Who would have guessed that one day he'd be causing mayhem in the skies? At number 18, we have Larry Hovis. Before he became the quick-witted Sergeant Carter in Hogan's Heroes, Hovis made not one, but 2 appearances in Season 5 of The Andy Griffith Show, playing Gilly Walker. The first time, in Goober Takes a Car Apart, Gilly found himself caught up in a big mess when Goober decided to dismantle a car right in the gas station, throwing the whole town into chaos. And as if once wasn't enough, Hovis returned in the case of the punch in the nose. This time with a sore nose and an unexpected story about a surprise punch from Goober. Clearly, even in the early days of his career, Hovis had a knack for turning simple situations into something unforgettable, a skill he carried with him as he made a splash in Hogan's Heroes. At number 17, we have Kent McCord. Before donning a police uniform and patrolling the crime-filled streets of Los Angeles in Adam 12, McCord had an incredibly brief, uncredited role on The Andy Griffith Show in Season 5, in the episode Barney's Uniform. He made a quick cameo inside the judo studio when Andy visited Barney's instructor. McCord was just another passing face on screen, but even though it was a small role, it's still an interesting milestone in his career. Who would have thought that the guy who made a blink and you'll miss it appearance in Mayberry would later become one of TV's most iconic cops? At number 16, we have Howard Hesseman. Before shaking up the radio waves as the eccentric Dr. Johnny Fever on WKRP in Cincinnati, Hesseman had a couple of interesting stops in Mayberry during Season 8 of The Andy Griffith Show. The first time, he played a food vendor at a car show in Raleigh, where he served Goober a hot dog. A few episodes later, he returned in a bigger role as Harry, a Mayberry citizen caught up in a small-town political rivalry. From serving fast food to getting involved in local elections, that's quite a jump, but not nearly as big as his leap from Mayberry to the wild, rebellious studio of WKRP. At number 15 is Buddy Ebsen. Before becoming the kind-hearted and unexpectedly wealthy Jed Clampett on the Beverly Hillbillies, Ebsen wandered into Mayberry in a very different kind of role. In his episode, he played David Brown, a carefree drifter who befriended Opie, but turned out to be a bad influence. Sheriff Andy quickly realized that this man wasn't the best role model for his son and had to step in. Looking back, it's pretty wild to think about. Who would have guessed that just a few years later, Ebsen would go on to become one of TV's most beloved father figures? Next, at number 14, we have Alan Hale. Before setting sail and getting stranded on a deserted island with Gilligan, Hale made a stop in Mayberry with a special mission, finding a wife. In the episode The Farmer Takes a Wife, he played Big Jeff Pruitt, a good-natured but determined farmer on the hunt for a bride in town. With his towering presence and big personality, Hale delivered a hilarious performance as his character searched for a woman brave enough to follow him back to his farm. Looking back, it's easy to see that Big Jeff Pruitt had a lot in common with the skipper. Both were big-hearted, larger-than-life men who sometimes got themselves into clumsy situations. The only difference? On Gilligan's Island, the skipper wasn't looking for a wife, he was looking for a way off the island. At number 13 is Bob Denver. Before becoming the lovable, bumbling castaway on a deserted island, Denver made a stop in Mayberry. In the Season 4 episode Divorce Mountain Style, he played Dud Wash, Charlene's husband, taking over the role from Hal Howell, who had played it previously. If you're used to seeing Denver in his iconic sailor outfit and signature hat, you might be surprised to see him as a goofy but charming mountain man. But whether he was a hillbilly in Mayberry or a stranded survivor on Gilligan's Island, one thing remained the same: his characters always seemed to find themselves in trouble. Next, at number 12, we have Jackie Coogan. Before becoming Uncle Fester, the bald, eccentric yet lovable uncle of the Addams family, Coogan had a career that stretched all the way back to his childhood, when he was one of Hollywood's most famous child stars. But even legendary actors had to pass through Mayberry at least once. On The Andy Griffith Show, Coogan played a slick con man who tried to lure Barney into a scheme, a far cry from Uncle Fester. From tricking Barney to lighting up light bulbs with his mouth, Coogan definitely had one of the most colorful acting careers around. At number 11 is Bill Bixby. Before he transformed into the tormented scientist David Banner or befriended a Martian, Bixby made an appearance in Mayberry, bringing his signature charm. In the episode Bailey's Bad Boy, he played a rich, arrogant young man who learned a valuable lesson from Sheriff Andy, but who could have predicted that just a few years later, this suave young man would be turning into a giant green monster whenever he got angry. Next, at number 10, is Jack Albertson. Before jumping out of bed to join his grandson Charlie at Willy Wonka's chocolate factory, or even before winning an Oscar, Albertson made a stop in Mayberry with a rather suspicious role. In Season 8 of The Andy Griffith Show, he played Aunt Bee's cousin, a self-proclaimed millionaire with exciting travel stories. But as it turned out, this so-called wealthy businessman was nothing more than a crafty con artist. Whether he was a sweet grandfather helping his grandson find a golden ticket, or a smooth-talking trickster, Albertson always had one thing in common: he knew how to make people believe in his stories. At number 9 is Sterling Holloway. If his voice sounds familiar, you're not mistaken. Holloway was the one who brought Winnie the Pooh to life. But before taking audiences on a journey through the 100-acre wood, he made a stop in Mayberry. In the episode The Merchant of Mayberry, Holloway played a struggling traveling salesman who found himself in an awkward standoff with Ben Weaver. With his distinctive, raspy yet endearing voice, he made the character uniquely memorable in his own way. At number 8 is Barbara Eden. Before stepping out of a genie bottle and dazzling audiences with her mischievous smile, Eden made a visit to Mayberry, and the town was never the same again. In the episode The Manicurist, Eden played a beautiful nail technician whose mere presence sent all of Mayberry into a frenzy. The men couldn't take their eyes off her, while the women didn't quite know how to handle her. With her natural charm and undeniable grace, Eden made this episode one of the most unforgettable in The Andy Griffith Show. Clearly, whether she was a small-town manicurist or a playful genie, Eden always had the power to enchant people in an instant. At number 7, we have James Best. Before making audiences laugh with his bumbling police chases in The Dukes of Hazzard, Best played a very different role in Mayberry, a young guitarist with real talent. Appearing in 2 episodes of Season 1, Best portrayed Jim Lindsay, a mild-mannered musician with a knack for the guitar. In The Guitar Player, Andy discovered his talent and tried to help him land a big break. When Jim returned in The Guitar Player Returns, Andy once again stepped in to help him regain his confidence after a falling out with his band. It's funny to think that the man who once strummed a guitar so gently on stage would later become a clumsy sheriff constantly outwitted by the Duke boys. At number 6 is Jerry Van Dyke. As the younger brother of legendary comedian Dick Van Dyke, Jerry made a name for himself in the world of comedy. In the Season 5 finale, he played a struggling banjo player whose festival performance got canceled. Fortunately, Sheriff Andy, with his usual kindness, stepped in and offered him a temporary job. At number 5, we have the Howard family. That's right, the Andy Griffith Show wasn't just a stepping stone for Ron Howard, it also featured his father, Rance Howard, and his younger brother, Clint Howard. Rance Howard, a seasoned actor, made multiple guest appearances in various roles, from a bus driver to a government worker. Meanwhile, Clint Howard, with his adorable face and signature peanut butter sandwich, played Little Leon, a mischievous kid who popped up unexpectedly and delivered some of the show's funniest moments. Though their roles were small, the Howard family's presence added depth to the show and made it even more special for longtime fans. And of course, among them, Ron Howard went on to shine the brightest, becoming one of Hollywood's greatest directors. At number 4, we have Jamie Farr. Before making audiences laugh out loud with his flamboyant dresses as Corporal Klinger in MASH, Farr had a memorable role in Mayberry. In the season 6 episode The Gypsies, Farr played a character perfectly suited to his comedic style, a member of a traveling gypsy group that threw the entire town into chaos. Looking back, it's hilarious to think that before playing an eccentric soldier in a war zone, he was already causing mayhem in Mayberry. At number 3, we have Don Rickles. Before playing a scheming gangster in Casino or voicing the grumpy yet lovable Mr. Potato Head in Toy Story, Rickles brought his signature snarky humor to Mayberry. In the episode The Luck of Newton Monroe, Rickles played Newton Monroe, a fast-talking salesman with unbelievably bad luck. With his razor-sharp wit and confident delivery, he turned the episode into one of the funniest moments on the Andy Griffith Show. Whether in Mayberry or Las Vegas, Rickles always knew how to leave a lasting impression. At number 2, we have Rob Reiner. Before playing the opinionated yet intelligent Mike Stivic in All in the Family, or before directing iconic films like The Princess Bride, Reiner had a blink and you'll miss it role in Mayberry that you probably never noticed. In the season 7 episode Goober's Contest, he played a humble clerk at the local print shop. No heated arguments with Archie Bunker, no legendary comedic moments like in Spinal Tap, just a small, almost unnoticeable role. But considering where his career went next, it's astonishing to think that this unassuming print shop employee would go on to become one of Hollywood's most successful directors. Quite the leap, wouldn't you say? Before we reach the number 1 spot, let's quickly mention a few other stars who made memorable appearances in Mayberry. First up, we have Teri Garr, one of Hollywood's most charming comedic actresses. Before she became a big screen star, Garr had a small, uncredited role in the episode The Wedding, playing a customer at Goober's gas station. Goober, in his quest for a date, invited her to a party at Howard's apartment, completely unaware that he had just approached a future Hollywood star. Though it was just a blink and you'll miss it moment, Garr left her mark in Mayberry before launching a decades-long film career. Who would have thought that a woman Goober once asked out would go on to become one of Hollywood's most recognizable faces? Next, we have Ellen Corby, best known for her role as Grandma Walton on The Waltons, who played a very different kind of character during her time in Mayberry. On the Andy Griffith Show, she portrayed Mount Hubcaps, a sharp-witted scam artist leading a gang that tricked Barney into buying a great car, only for it to fall apart right afterward. With her biting delivery and mischievous attitude, Corby showcased a stark contrast to the kind and loving grandmother audiences would later adore in The Waltons. Not everyone can go from playing a warm, gentle grandma to a fast-talking con artist in the blink of an eye. Alan Melvin, another familiar face, is best known to audiences as Sam the Butcher from The Brady Bunch. In fact, Melvin appeared in Mayberry no less than 8 times, taking on a variety of different roles. With that kind of frequent presence, he probably deserved a permanent seat at Aunt Bee's dinner table. Lee Van Cleef. Before becoming one of the most feared gunslingers in spaghetti westerns, facing off against Clint Eastwood in For a Few Dollars More, Van Cleef appeared in the Andy Griffith Show's banjo-playing deputy episode in season 8, playing a quick-moving pickpocket. No deadly shootouts, no piercing stares, just a small-time crook looking for an easy score in a quiet town. Hard to believe that the man who became a legend in high-stakes western duels once had a light-hearted comedic moment in Mayberry. Harry Dean Stanton. Before he became known for playing brooding, world-weary characters on the big screen, Harry Dean Stanton played a bored shopkeeper on a Caribbean island in The Andy Griffith Show. No high-speed car chases, no intense drama, just an ordinary day on an island. It was probably the most peaceful role of Stanton's entire career. And what about William Christopher? Before donning the priest's robe as Father Mulcahy in MASH, he worked for the government in The Andy Griffith Show, playing an IRS agent in Aunt Bee on TV, Season 6, and later appearing as Dr. Peterson, a young doctor in A New Doctor in Town, Season 7. Meanwhile, Morgan Brittany, who later became a household name in Dallas, appeared in the first episode of Season 8 as Opie's very first love interest, a sweet and memorable role. But no one knew at the time that the little girl from Mayberry would grow up to be one of the biggest stars of 1980s television. Comedian Arte Johnson, who later gained fame for his sharp-witted humor on Rowan and Martin's Laugh-In, made a fun appearance in Andy and Barney in the Big City, Season 2, as a hotel clerk. Jack Nicholson. And finally, the #1 star you might not have realized once appeared on The Andy Griffith Show is none other than Jack Nicholson. That's right. Jack Nicholson, the man with the chilling grin and piercing stare, made his way to Mayberry not once, but twice. The first time in the Season 7 episode Opie Finds a Baby, Nicholson played a worried young father trying to find a home for the baby he had discovered. But that wasn't the end of his time in Mayberry. In Season 8, he returned in an episode inspired by 12 Angry Men, where his character was put on trial for theft. And this time, he had the chance to showcase the intense, commanding presence that would later define his legendary career. Just a few years later, Nicholson skyrocketed to fame with breakout performances in Easy Rider and 5 Easy Pieces, kicking off one of the greatest careers in Hollywood history. But for fans of The Andy Griffith Show, knowing that Jack Nicholson once strolled through Mayberry is a mind-blowing revelation. You might have missed him if you only watched the black and white episodes. So, which of these guest stars surprised you the most? Is there an actor you think might have appeared in Mayberry that we didn't mention? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to click the video in the corner of your screen to continue this fascinating journey with us.